ask you something uncomfortable. Are you the reason your organization works? Be honest. If you don't step in, does it slow down? If you don't clarify, do decisions stall? And if you don't interpret purpose, does strategy wobble? If the answer is yes, this conversation is for you. Strong leaders rarely lose their legacy through failure. They lose it through success, and it happens quietly.
Shh.
You built this. You carried risk. You made payroll when no one else could. You absorbed pressure. You made the hard calls. People trust you because you've earned it. So over time, more decisions come to you. More escalation routes through you. More ambiguity lands on your desk. It feels efficient. You tell yourself, it's faster if I just decide, or I understand the nuance, or they'll get there eventually. But here's the shift. When your presence becomes the operating system, architecture begins to thin out underneath you. The organization becomes responsive, but not necessarily resilient. You don't see drift because things are working until you try to step back and you realize the machine hums, but only when you're near it. That's not weakness. That's gravitational centralization, and it happens to strong leaders. Think of your organization like an orchestra. The score is purpose. The musicians are your people. The sound is performance. The conductor is authority, you. At first you follow the score carefully, but over time, because you know the music so well, you begin to conduct from memory. You speed up passages. You emphasize certain instruments. You adjust tempo based on instinct. The audience still applauds, but the orchestra begins watching you more than the score. Now imagine you leave. Does the orchestra play the music faithfully, or do they wait for interpretation? If your organization waits for you to interpret purpose, that's not alignment. That's dependency. And dependency hides inside strength. If you sit on an executive team, consider this. When a strategic decision is made, do people say, that's consistent with our purpose? Or do they say, that's what she would want? There is a difference. One is constitutional, the other is personal. And when purpose becomes interpreted through personality, the organization begins orbiting a person instead of a principle. It still performs, but it becomes vulnerable during succession, capital transition, board shifts, market shocks. The test isn't daily operations. The test is stress. If you're on a board, ask yourself, is governance documentation reflecting reality, or is reality informal and personality driven? Do you have clarity on authority concentration, founder dependency, succession resilience, incentive misalignment, or do you simply trust momentum? Performance can mask structural fragility. Buyers don't look for charisma, they look for architecture. If architecture is thin, valuation reflects that. Here's the simplest question I ask leaders. If you stepped away for 90 days, what would break? Be specific. Decision clarity, escalation pathways, cultural cohesion, strategic consistency. If the answer makes you uneasy, that is not insecurity. That is structural intuition. Listen to it. You already know if something in this conversation made you shift in your chair, if you thought of one decision that only works because you're in the room, if you realize succession is more assumption than structure, then you don't need inspiration. You need evaluation. Strong leaders do not wait for crisis to expose architecture. They examine it before it is tested. If your organization depends on you more than it should, request the legacy protection audit. Not because something is broken, because something is valuable. Architect your legacy or let gravity decide it for you.